The taste of copper flooded my mouth as I read the message glowing on my husband's phone screen. Can't wait for the weekend, the cabin, wine, and that pink lace set. I'm counting the hours. My knees buckled against the bathroom vanity, toothbrush still clutched in my trembling hand. Behind the frosted shower door, water cascaded down Daniel's back as he hummed off-key, completely unaware that our 11-year marriage had just shattered into 1,000 pieces. My name is Rebecca, I'm 34, and I'm a financial advisor. This is the story of how I discovered that sometimes the most devastating betrayals happen in the most ordinary moments. The sender's name burned into my retinas, Sophia Martinez. Not some random hookup, but the 38-year-old medical device sales rep I'd met at our company Christmas party. The woman who had complimented my dress and asked about my skincare routine while my husband watched from across the room, his smile now taking on an entirely different meaning. I set the phone down with surgical precision, exactly where Daniel had left it. My reflection stared back from the mirror. Same auburn hair, same green eyes, same freckles across my nose that Daniel used to trace with his finger on lazy Sunday mornings. But the woman looking back at me was a stranger. Someone who had been living a lie for months, maybe years, while thinking she was building a life. The shower turned off. I quickly rinsed my mouth, applied moisturizer with mechanical efficiency, and walked into our bedroom like it was any other Thursday morning. Daniel emerged wrapped in his navy towel, droplets still clinging to his shoulders. "Portland conference this weekend," he said, reaching for his favorite charcoal suit. "I'll probably stay through Sunday to attend some optional sessions." "The weather's supposed to turn cold up there," I replied, my voice steady as granite. "Don't forget your wool coat." He kissed my cheek, the same spot he'd kissed every morning for 6 years of marriage, and I felt nothing but the dampness from his beard. No butterflies, no warmth, just the clinical observation that his aftershave smelled different, more expensive. That night, after Daniel's usual Thursday tennis game and 2 glasses of Jameson, he slept like the dead. His right index finger, the one that unlocked his phone, lay across his stomach, twitching slightly in REM sleep. I waited until his breathing deepened into the familiar rhythm I'd fallen asleep to for over a decade, then carefully lifted his hand to the sensor. The screen illuminated our darkened bedroom like a confession booth. What I found wasn't just infidelity, it was an entire parallel life. Sophia wasn't some desperate homewrecker. She was married to Marcus Martinez, a 41-year-old landscape architect with his own firm in Bellevue. The messages revealed she was just as calculating as Daniel, just as careful with her lies. "Marcus is in Vancouver until Tuesday. House is empty. Told him I'm at a medical conference in Spokane this weekend. The cabin Daniel designed is perfect. No neighbors for miles." My blood ran ice cold. The cabin Daniel designed. The same cabin where we'd scattered my father's ashes 3 years ago. Where Daniel had proposed on the dock during sunset, promising me forever while sliding my grandmother's ring onto my finger. I spent the next hour screenshotting everything, my hands steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. Credit card statements showing dinners I wasn't invited to, hotel receipts from business trips that never existed, photos Sophia had sent, not explicit but intimate. Her feet tucked under her on a leather couch I recognized from furniture shopping we'd done together last spring. By 3 a.m., I had assembled enough evidence to destroy both their marriages. But destruction wasn't my goal. Truth was. I opened my laptop and began researching Marcus Martinez. A quick LinkedIn search revealed his landscape architecture firm, and from there, I found his business contact information. I opened my laptop and began typing a message to Marcus Martinez, rewriting it 17 times before finding the courage to hit send. "Hi, Marcus. This is Rebecca Chen. I believe our spouses are having an affair. If you want to discuss this, my number is 206-555-7834. I have proof." My phone rang 4 hours later while I was reviewing quarterly reports at my home office, trying to pretend Thursday hadn't happened. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" Marcus's voice was gravelly, like he'd been chain-smoking or hadn't slept. "I wish it were," I replied, my throat dry as sandpaper. "I have 6 months of text messages, photos, and hotel receipts. They're planning to spend this weekend at Lake Chelan." A pause stretched between us, filled only by the distant sound of construction equipment on his end. "What do you want to do about it?" he finally asked. I gripped the phone tighter, staring at the framed photo of Daniel and me at Niagara Falls, both of us laughing at something I couldn't remember. "Would you be interested in meeting them there before they have a chance to get comfortable?" Another silence, then a long exhale. "Yeah, let's meet first. I want to see what you know." We agreed to meet Saturday morning at a small diner in Wenatchee, halfway between Seattle and the lake. I arrived 15 minutes early, choosing a corner booth with clear sightlines to the parking lot, old habits from my forensic accounting days. When Marcus walked in, I recognized him immediately from his LinkedIn photo. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of weathered hands that came from actual physical work. He sat down without small talk, and I placed my phone between us, opening Daniel's message thread with Sophia. With each swipe, I watched Marcus's jaw tighten imperceptibly. When he reached the photo of Sophia's legs stretched across the couch, he'd probably assembled himself. He closed his eyes and leaned back against the vinyl booth. "I thought it was just work stress," he murmured. "She stopped wanting to go to counseling. Now I know why." I showed him the hotel receipts, the dinner charges, the carefully coordinated lies about conferences and work trips. After an hour of documentation, Marcus looked directly at me. "I still have a key to the cabin," he said quietly. "Sophia doesn't know I kept it when we helped them move in their furniture last year." "Daniel thinks I'm at a client retreat in Spokane this weekend," I replied. "He has no idea I'm within 300 miles of that place." Marcus nodded slowly. "No screaming, no drama. Just let them see us sitting there when they walk in with their wine and weekend bags." We shook hands across the table, two strangers united by the peculiar intimacy of shared betrayal. After finalizing our plan at the diner, Marcus and I drove separately to Lake Chelan, arriving at the cabin by mid-afternoon to prepare for the confrontation that would change all our lives. Sunday evening, 5:47 p.m., I sat in the cabin's living room, hands folded in my lap, watching the last streaks of sunlight dance across Lake Chelan's surface. The silence felt different than the comfortable quiet Daniel and I used to share. This was the silence before revelation, heavy with inevitability. Marcus sat across from me in the leather armchair Sophia had photographed herself in, his eyes fixed on the gravel driveway. We'd spent the afternoon preparing, not setting a trap, but staging truth. 2 wine glasses sat on the coffee table next to a bottle of Cabernet, Sophia's favorite according to her texts. The curtains were pulled back to frame the lake view Daniel always said made the cabin feel like a postcard. The crunch of tires on gravel broke the stillness. "Black BMW," Marcus said quietly. I nodded, my heart hammering against my ribs despite the calm I'd maintained all weekend. Car doors slammed. Daniel's laugh carried across the evening air, followed by Sophia's higher-pitched giggle. They sounded like teenagers sneaking out after curfew, giddy with the thrill of getting away with something. The front door opened. Sophia entered first, her smile freezing mid-laugh when she saw us. Daniel bumped into her back, annoyed, then looked up to see what had stopped her. The bottle of champagne slipped from his hands, exploding against the hardwood floor in a spray of glass and golden liquid. The sharp smell of alcohol filled the room like an accusation. "Welcome to your romantic getaway," I said, my voice light as morning coffee. "We took the liberty of opening some wine." Daniel's face cycled through shock, confusion, and finally, a kind of defeated recognition. Sophia stepped backward, her overnight bag dropping from her shoulder with a soft thud. "Rebecca, this isn't—" Daniel began. "Isn't what?" I interrupted, tilting my head. "Isn't you telling your wife you're at a Portland conference while you're actually 3 hours away with another man's wife? Isn't you bringing your mistress to the same cabin where we scattered my father's ashes?" Marcus stood up, his voice steady but cold. "And Sophia, this isn't you telling me you're at a medical conference in Spokane while you're actually here with him?" Sophia collapsed into the nearest chair, her face pale as winter sky. "Marcus, please." "Please what?" he asked. "Please don't stand here in the cabin I helped you choose. Please don't mention that you've been lying to me for 6 months while I thought we were working through our problems." I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila folder, placing it on the coffee table with deliberate care. I didn't come here empty-handed, I said, looking directly at Daniel. 6 months of documentation, text messages, credit card statements, hotel receipts, even the Uber rides to her neighborhood when you told me you were staying late at the office. Daniel's hands shook as he opened the folder, his eyes scanning the evidence of his carefully constructed deception. After less than a minute, he threw it down, his face flushed red. You were spying on me? I was verifying what I already knew, I replied calmly. Because you'd become so skilled at lying that I had to become skilled at finding truth. Sophia buried her face in her hands. How long have you known? Since last Thursday morning, I said, when your text about the pink lace set showed up on Daniel's phone while he was in the shower. Marcus turned to his wife, his voice barely above a whisper. 6 months, Sophia. 6 months of me thinking I was going crazy, wondering why you'd stop touching me, why you always had your phone face down, why you suddenly needed so much space. The room fell silent except for Sophia's quiet crying and the distant sound of lake water lapping against the dock. Daniel finally found his voice. Rebecca, I know this looks terrible, but it doesn't mean I stopped loving you. I studied his face. The same face I'd kissed goodbye thousands of times, the same eyes that had looked into mine when I'd miscarried our baby 2 years ago, promising we'd get through it together. If this is your version of love, I said quietly, then I finally understand why I've felt so lonely for the past year. I stood up, smoothing down my jeans. Daniel, you can stay and try to explain this to Marcus, or you can leave. But if you're waiting for forgiveness, you fundamentally misunderstood who I am. Marcus looked at Sophia one more time, then turned to me. I need some air. So do I. We walked out onto the deck, leaving behind 2 people sitting in the wreckage of their lives. The lake stretched out before us, unchanged despite everything that had shifted in the last hour. You know what the worst part is? Marcus said, leaning against the railing. What? I actually thought about buying her flowers on the way up here today. Some pathetic attempt to surprise her, show her I was trying harder. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. 12 years of marriage, and I was ready to blame myself for her pulling away. I nodded, understanding completely. I convinced myself Daniel was just stressed about work, that maybe I was too focused on my career, not attentive enough. I was ready to sign us up for couples counseling. Were you really ready to forgive him? Marcus asked. If he'd confessed, shown remorse, ended it? I considered this carefully, watching the last light fade from the sky. Maybe, if it had been a one-time mistake, if he'd come to me himself, if he'd been willing to do the work to rebuild trust. I paused. But this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice he made every day for 6 months, and bringing her here, to this place. I shook my head. Some things can't be forgiven. When we returned inside, Daniel and Sophia were sitting on opposite sides of the room, not looking at each other. The champagne had been cleaned up, but the smell lingered. I sat back down across from Daniel, Marcus beside me. I want you to understand something, I said to Daniel. This isn't about Sophia. This is about the fact that you looked me in the eye every morning for 6 months and lied. You let me worry about our marriage. Let me think I was the problem, while you were building a completely separate life. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes red-rimmed. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt me, I replied. Every single day, and the fact that you think your intentions matter more than your actions tells me everything I need to know about who you really are. Sophia spoke up from her corner, voice barely audible. I know I have no right to apologize, but I never meant for it to go this far. Marcus turned to her, his expression unreadable. What did you mean for it to go? Did you plan to just keep lying to both of us until we died? No one answered. I reached into my purse and pulled out another folder, placing it in front of Daniel. Divorce papers, I said simply. I've already transferred our joint assets into escrow accounts. Everything's been documented by my attorney. Daniel stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. Rebecca, please. We can work through this. No, I said, shaking my head. We can't, because trust isn't something you can fix with counseling or good intentions. It's something you either have or you don't, and we don't. I stood up, slinging my purse over my shoulder. You have 48 hours to review those papers with your attorney. After that, I'm filing with or without your signature. Marcus stood as well. Sophia, I'll be staying at my brother's for the next few days. We can talk when you're ready to have a conversation that doesn't involve lies. As we walked toward the door, Sophia called out, Marcus, wait, there's something else. We both turned back. She was crying again, her hands shaking. I'm pregnant. The words hit the room like a physical blow. Daniel's face went white. Marcus gripped the doorframe. How far along? Marcus asked, his voice hollow. 8 weeks, Sophia whispered. I found out last week. I was going to tell you this weekend, but then. She gestured helplessly at the room. Marcus closed his eyes. Is it mine? Sophia nodded quickly. Yes, Daniel and I always used protection. The timing, it's definitely yours. I felt something shift inside my chest. Not jealousy, but a deep sadness for the child who would be born into this mess. Daniel stared at Sophia like he'd never seen her before. So you were planning to tell your husband you were pregnant while you were spending the weekend with your lover, I said. It wasn't a question. Sophia's face crumpled. I was going to end things with Daniel. I swear I was. Marcus looked at his wife for a long moment, then turned to me. I need to go. I nodded. So do I. We left them sitting in the cabin, Daniel staring at divorce papers, Sophia holding her still flat stomach like it might disappear if she let go. In the parking lot, Marcus and I stood beside our cars in the gathering darkness. Are you going to be okay? I asked. He managed a weak smile. Eventually. You? Eventually. We didn't exchange numbers or make plans to stay in touch. Some bonds are forged in crisis and meant to remain there, perfect and complete in their brief intensity. 6 months later, I was sitting on the deck of my new house in Edmonds, watching ferries cross Puget Sound while my coffee grew cold in my hands. The divorce had been finalized in March. Daniel signed the papers without contest, probably on advice from his lawyer who saw the mountain of evidence I'd assembled. He moved to Portland immediately after, taking a job with a smaller architectural firm that didn't ask too many questions about references. I'd kept my maiden name professionally, but now I'd taken it back personally too. Rebecca Chen, not Rebecca Martinez, the woman who had learned to trust her instincts and walk away from beautiful lies. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Emma Sophia Martinez was born yesterday. 6 pounds, 3 ounces, healthy. We're figuring it out day by day. I smiled, typing back. Congratulations. She's lucky to have a father like you. Daniel and Sophia had tried to make their affair into something real after our confrontation. But relationships built on lies rarely survive in the light of day. Within 6 weeks, Sophia realized she couldn't trust someone who had deceived his wife so thoroughly. And Daniel discovered that the thrill of forbidden love evaporated quickly when it became everyday reality. Sophia moved back in with Marcus before their daughter was born, and they began the difficult work of rebuilding their marriage with the help of a counselor who specialized in infidelity recovery. As for me, I'd discovered something unexpected in my new life. Peace. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of truth. I woke up every morning in a house that was completely mine, with no secrets hiding in shower steam or locked phones. I'd started taking pottery classes on Thursday nights, Daniel's old tennis night, and found I had steady hands for more than just financial statements. My story wasn't a revenge fantasy where the cheaters got their comeuppance and the betrayed spouse rode off into the sunset. It was simpler and more complex than that. It was the story of a woman who learned that sometimes the most radical act isn't fighting for someone who doesn't deserve you. It's walking away with your dignity intact. The truth had set us all free, even if none of us had wanted to be freed in quite that way. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. 0 cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.